All right, good morning. It's good to see everybody here this morning as we go into our Bible study time. We won't be in Genesis this morning. Won't be in Genesis, but we'll talk about a rich man and Lazarus a little bit later. This morning we have a special treat. Ron Brown Jr. is with us here from Save Asian Souls with his wife Gigi, and we are so happy that they're here with us. And Mr. Brown's going to talk about the work that's going on over there. And if you've from his dad, Mr. Ron, coming over many times before this. It's a tremendous, tremendous work. It's one that we support, and we're proud to support it. And I'm sure after Mr. Brown gets up here and he shows us everything that's going on right now in this work. If anybody feels the urgency to, hey, you know what, I want to give even more to that work, I'm sure they can put those resources to work for this. So with that being said, Mr. Brown, if you want to come forward, we're ready to hear what you got to tell us.
Thank you, sir, and welcome to anyone who's watching online. We're happy to be here today. My wife Gigi and I just arrived from the Philippines on Thursday, and now we're here for about 5 weeks to travel and report to churches and let everybody know what's been going on and what the future is for our work. So our work is a little bit separate from my father's. We have our own foundation. Although my father is also involved in our work. One of the homes is a girls' home, and he sponsors a lot of the girls there. He helped to build the building and sponsors some of the girls in that building. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So we are Casa Esperanza of Angels Foundation is our incorporation name in the Philippines. And then Philippine Mission Incorporated is our name in the U.S. So we're incorporated in both countries so that we're all legal. And we are a 501c3 organization. So you can see our logo there with both names. So if you hear either names, it's still us interchangeably. We're not getting a picture on there, but we're located in Tanjay City, which is in central Visayas. So it's about 350 miles south of Manila. And it's a very large island. It's about the fourth largest island in the Philippines. And so that's where we are. If you can check a map sometime, the map's not showing up on our presentation here, but you can look that up. Tanjay City on Negros Island. So our mission is to seek and save the lost through two different avenues. The first is residential care and teaching of orphaned, abandoned, abused, or neglected children. And the second is outreach and evangelism to the community around us. MTG, can you check to see if we can restart that PowerPoint so we can get our videos, our pictures? So I'll tell you just while we're waiting to see if we can get the photos up, what we do. So we accept children from various different backgrounds and situations. So the children come from a neglected situation where perhaps their family is so poor that they have so many children that they can inadequately feed, clothe, and school them. We take children that are true orphans, but they're actually quite rare to find true orphans that have lost both parents. We have children that have, their family has some mental health issues and their parents are not able to care for them properly. We have children that are from neglective situations where, not everybody is a good parent. And so their parents are just not really able to care for them properly. We have children that have been abandoned. It's quite frequent in the Philippines for parents to travel to Manila or even overseas to look for work. And often they leave children behind with a grandparent, an aunt, or something like that. And are not cared for by their parents anymore. So they have basically been abandoned. So we have children from all kinds of different situations. We even have children that have been abused, whether psychologically, physically, or sexually. So there is a lot of children in the Philippines that need help. So it looks like we've got our photos back here now. You can see there on the right. That's the half of Negros Island, so it's divided into two provinces. And you can see about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom on the right, Tanjay City in the rectangle there. That is where we're located, and we have our facility. So in 2016, we purchased a piece of property. It's 2 hectares or 4.94 acres, almost 5 acres. It was completely sugarcane, all sugarcane. So we harvested the sugarcane and began our work. So in 2016, we began building an exterior wall. That's the construction of the gate, the front gate area right there. And in this photo aerial view in 2017, you can see that we've had about half of the exterior enclosure wall built, and we are beginning construction of the first children's home. This is a Google Earth image from 2023. Starting at the bottom, you can see our guardhouse at the entrance gate, a tent. That is a temporary structure where we use for worship services, Bible studies, tutorials, birthday parties, movie night. We use that structure for just about everything at this time. We have our CEA Learning Center under construction. When I say CEA, I mean Casa Esperanza of Angels from our name. We have a playground for the children. We have our 2 children's homes that are completely built and functional now. We have a laundry house where our social workers, licensed social workers, currently have an office, but they will be moved. And we have our director's living quarters where Ma'am Gigi and I are living at this time. We have a small storage and then a large center section where we have our food forest, our gardens, so that we can supply some of our own food. I'll tell you more about that in a few moments. So let's talk about our children's homes. We have 2 children's homes. House of Hope is our boys' home, and House of Faith is our girls' home that was helped, Save Asian Souls helped construct that building and sponsors quite a number of the girls that are in that home. So this is the boys' home. Although the 2 houses are exactly the same size, they have different floor plans, so they house different numbers of children. So the boys' home will have a maximum of 16 boys. The girls' home has a maximum of 24 girls. So there's our playground. It's a half-court basketball one way and a full-size volleyball and badminton court the opposite way. And our children really enjoy on the weekends or during the week if we give them a chance, although they're usually involved in their schoolwork during the week. But on the weekends, they really love to get on the playground and run around and play games. So we haven't been back to the U.S. in 3 years, and the reason is we were stuck with COVID, the pandemic. So our kids were also stuck on the property. All schools, face-to-face classes were closed for 2 years. So we basically had to do homeschooling for 2 years from children all the way from kindergarten to 11th grade. So it's the old one schoolroom concept where everybody's in the same building, in the tent, where they're all together, all age groups, and the Department of Education supplied us with modular classes, so paperwork and lessons that they could go through. So we brought in volunteer teachers during that time. We paid them an honorarium, a small honorarium to come in. They traveled every day from different locations on the island to come teach our kids for 2 years. So they were prisoners for 2 years, as we kind of all were during that pandemic time. So to look at our children, as I've already stated, they come from all kinds of different backgrounds. It normally takes them a couple of weeks to adjust once they're brought from their home. The first thing that you notice is their physical change, their complexion, their vitality. Because now they're getting adequate, proper food. So the physical changes are the first, and then the psychological and other things come later. So in 2019, we started out with 2 boys and 1 girl, and you can see the progression there. 2020, 2 boys and 3 girls, 3 boys and 10 girls were added. 3 boys and 6 girls in 2021. 2022, 4 boys, 4 girls, and so far this year we have 1 boy and 2 girls added to our list of children. So we have 30 children in our care right at this time. 6 children have been discharged. 4 were sent back to their families, and 2 were transferred to another facility that can better handle their behavior issues. So some of the children we're going to show you so you can see the changes in them. This is Mary Lynn and Jamaica, siblings. The photo there on the left is with their grandmother the day she brought them, and on the right, 3 years later, the two sisters. This is Angelo. He was actually the third child that we brought to the facility. Here he is with his mother in front of the home. His mother suffers from mental illness problems, and sometimes she won't even have food in the house. She doesn't seem to know what's going on properly, and so she could inadequately care for him. This is Maria Flor, who we just call Flor. The photo with the home there is her single mother and brother. This is actually, I believe, her grandmother's home back in 2020 when we found her, and you can see the photo there on the right of her 2023, a very recent photo. Here's Arlene Grace, who we call just Grace, with her grandparents in their home. So she was abandoned by her family, left with the grandparents. She does not have contact with her family anymore, her parents. And so she's been with us for at least 3 years now. You can see her recent photo on the left. So we're missing a photo for the Balderrama siblings, but there's 3 children. Their family history is kind of difficult and complicated, but we have 3 children, 3 siblings from the Balderramos family as well. So we're missing all our photos now again. So Jonah Bell was mentioned here. You can't see her photos, but this is just another child that we had come to our facility from a tough situation. Family, father is a sugarcane cutter, and very, very low income family. If we can try and restart again, we'll see if we can get those photos for you. So most of the children come from rural areas in the mountains, very, very poor. A lot of their families are sugarcane cutters, but that's a very seasonal work. It's only part of the year they're able to work, and the sugarcane cutters get paid by the amount of sugarcane they can cut in a day. And I don't think, Ma'am Gigi, do you think they make around 200 pesos a day? 200 to 300 pesos a day, which is around $4 to $5 for a full day in 90-degree weather out in the fields cutting sugarcane. Okay, so we have Jezebel and Joel there, and the center on the picture on the left, that's with their family. They are right in the center there, and they have been with us a little over a year now, and you can see a recent photo of them there on the right. This is Aquila, and that's in front of her grandparents' home. You can see a palm tree has fallen in front of their home from Odette, typhoon we had in 2021, and they still have not probably repaired their house or cleared up the debris. Aquila came to us just this year. This is Precious and Jonama, siblings, and you can see in the top right the picture of their home where they came from. Their father is a fisherman. But of course, his income only depends on what he can catch, and not every day do you catch a fish. So they are struggling to care for their children, so we've taken these 2 children in. So we have 18 girls and 12 boys. That's the whole group there in front of our 2 children's homes. So 20 of our children are in elementary school, and 11 are in high school. So now you're probably wondering, if I add those numbers up, Mr. Brown, I came up with 31, not 30. So we do have one child that is a biological child of one of our house mothers. He is integrated in with the other children. They are all treated fairly, and there's no partiality. We do not allow that. So he's integrated into the group. He's just like one of our children now. So many of our children are honor students. I believe they just got their recent grading, and I think all of the elementary are honor students. A lot of them do struggle in school because they've missed years of schooling, and they have not completed all their lessons, so they are still struggling in school, but they're still above a lot of the other kids in the school, so they are honor students, many of them. So our staff, in 2018, we started with our skeleton staff of only 5 people, myself, Ma'am Gigi, and our licensed social worker, and a house parent couple. And now we have 11 staff, And we just added another volunteer right before we left, so we have 11 staff and 2 volunteers. So you can see us there. Myself, I act as managing director. I run the day-to-day operations, make policies, procedures, all those kinds of things. Hiring, termination, all those things I handle. Ma'am Gigi, although it lists as activities director, she does just about everything and more. She really handles some of the most complicated things, which dealing with the government for all our employees. The BIR, which is the IRS there, the insurance, the Social Security, all these things. She deals with all those government things that involved with employees, and it's not easy, trust me. We have Laura, our social worker. We are required by the government to have licensed social workers. We should have 2. One just resigned a couple of weeks ago, so we only have 1 now, but Laura is our licensed social worker. Rhea May is learning to be our administrative assistant, doing a lot of chores for us, paying bills, keeping up with time of our workers and things like that. So here are our house mothers. In the boys' house, we have Dina, house mother, and Eileen assists her in that home. In the girls' home, we have Erlyn, and Atty Nords is her assistant in that home. So ideally, in our model, when we begin this, we wanted to have a mother-father figure in each home because that's what these kids need. But we have found it very, very difficult to find couples that are willing to take on this task. Initially, we had 1 couple, but we lost them. And now, so we've only been able to find elderly women or older women that are able to care for the children. So that's where we're at now. And even finding these women that are willing to care for so many children that are not their children is difficult. So you have so many different personalities, behavior problems. And so it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to take care of kids that are not yours. And I think some of you may agree it's even difficult to take care of your own children at times. So it's not an easy job, and we know that. So Manny is our maintenance manager. We have Elmer as our groundskeeper. Jeffrey is our driver. Demi is one of our volunteers. And as I say, we added Daisy, another volunteer, just before we left. So baptisms, we've had 3 baptisms in 2020, Angelo, Arvin, and Grace. In 2021, we had 6 baptisms, Marvick, Kiana, Liberty, Robin, Hilla, and Jillian. And then in 2022, we had 4 baptisms, Michael, Maria Faye, and Loner. So Maria Faye and Loner had been baptized before. Some other children in their small community were being baptized, so they just kind of joined in. But when we questioned them, they really had no idea why they had been baptized. So we studied with them and made sure that they fully understood the reasons to be baptized, and then we re-baptized them. So you may recognize Rhea May there from earlier as a staff member, administration assistant. So she actually applied for a job she was not qualified for, but because I liked her initiative, that she showed up for a job that she was not qualified for, so I asked her if she wanted to be a volunteer and began learning to do things, and she said yes. So she volunteered for a full year. During that year, she began attending Bible studies and worship services, and eventually she asked to be baptized. So just baptizing children is not only the important part to us. We're building a church. We're building leaders in the church. So our baptized boys are now leading prayers during worship services and Bible studies. They're serving on the Lord's table on Sunday morning. And on Wednesday nights, we have 3 of our older boys that are preparing devotional messages and delivering messages. So they write out their full devotional message. I review it to make sure that it's acceptable. Then they deliver their message, and then we critique them after their delivery. We talk to them about how they did in their presentation. So they're learning how to be leaders in the church, and that's important for us. So also, Ma'am Gigi does a Saturday morning's Bible class every Saturday morning with the girls to help teach them how to be good Christian young women. And we also do song practice every Saturday morning. We learn new hymns and we practice the ones that we are learning so that we can do our best to sing during our worship service. We also have a sustainability program. So we're missing our pictures again, but we have a vegetable garden. The children are taught how to be involved in the vegetable garden, so they help prepare the ground. They plant the seeds, they harvest what they can. We also do our own composting, so everything that's biodegradable we save and make our own compost for the garden. Let's hope that we can get our photos back again, because I'd really like you to see them. So we do have a large number of fruit trees on the property. We have banana trees, of course, living in the tropics. We have mangoes, we have pineapple, we have avocado trees, we have papaya, we have a large variety of trees of fruits that you probably are not familiar with: tambis, chico, atis, rambutan, all kinds of trees, fruit trees that we can help to sustain ourselves. So our pictures are back there now. See the children working in the vegetable garden and our compost area where the boys are working on our compost piles. So as I was just mentioning, we have lots of fruit trees on the property, so we try to sustain ourselves with as much of producing our own food as possible. It's also important for these children to learn how to do this for themselves, so that later in life they can also care for themselves and their families. We also, of course, as you see there, get lots of vegetables from our vegetable garden. So we also have at this time 10 geese. We had 2 babies hatch right before we left, give us a total of 10. We also do plan to have chickens and perhaps quail later on to help supply our food needs at the property. So reaching out, as I mentioned, to the community, also a part of what we do. Over the years, we've done a lot of different outreaches, usually to poverty-stricken communities near the city. And after Odette in 2021, December of 2021, we had a horrible hurricane, or typhoon as it's called in the Pacific. And we provided food packs for the community that's right near our property, as they had been devastated. Even one man was killed over there during the storm. So we provided food packs. We also prepared a meal for them, and we involved our kids in this. They were right there to help give these things to these other families. So even though these kids are coming from a poverty situation where they struggled in life, now we're teaching them to help others as they are able. So we also, when we have things, our bedding or things that begin to wear out, or we get donations of clothes and things that really are not acceptable to us, that we really can't use, we end up giving that also to the poor communities around us to help them out and show our love for them. So what's next for us at CEA? So we want to reach full capacity for our 2 existing children's homes. And by the way, we do, in our master plan, have plans for 2 more homes. That would be a maximum total of 4. So our maximum number of children in our care would be around 80 if we complete the other 2 homes. But if we fill these 2 homes with maximum capacity, we'll have 40 children. So that's what we're hoping to do this year in 2023, is max out our 2 homes to have 40 children under our care. We are also hoping that we can encourage some youth groups to come visit. So our children are new Christians. When they go to school, there's no other Church of Christ kids there, so they need encouragement. They need to see that other kids are able to live this kind of lifestyle, although difficult in this world today. They need encouragement from other kids their age. So we're hoping we can get some youth groups to come visit the Philippines and spend some time with our kids as well. So we had a full-time minister in 2021. I am not a minister. So we had a full-time minister in 2021, but he had his wife worked overseas. He had 3 children, 2 in college and another in high school, I believe, and he was having difficulties with his children and being away from them, working full-time for us. So he returned home to another town in the Philippines to be with them and resigned from the job. But we're searching. We would like to have a full-time minister that can lead the children in their biblical studies. So we're also searching for a missionary couple that will help us in this work. Ma'am Gigi and I need to travel here to report to churches, to do fundraising, and we really need somebody left behind that can run things and keep things functioning properly, and be involved in the work and help us expand out more than we are already, especially to the community. We hope in 2023 to finish our CEA Learning Center. It's under construction. I took this photo just a day before we left. This building is a rather large building that is necessary for us. When I left, they were putting in the steel for the top bond beam before we put the roof on. We also have a welder that is fabricating all the steel doors while we are gone. So what is in this building? It has 4 large classrooms that will open up into one large room if you so choose. We will put our social workers there. Our social workers' office will be in this building. A padded room, yes, a padded room is required by the government for a child that is so violent and uncontrollable that they must be put in a room until they can calm down or some other thing can be done with them. So I do not expect that we will have to have any children do that, because our children really are very good. Most of them are very, very good kids. So I do not expect that we'll ever have to use that room, but it is required by law. So we will also have a library and a computer lab. These kids get at school, you need to do research, you need to do research. They have to get on a computer, so we need that for them to continue their education. We'll have educational storage for materials, educational material storage, and we will also have a small clinic with isolation rooms. So as you can imagine, with the children living rather close to each other, when one gets a cold, they all get a cold. So we need some isolation rooms where if we have a child that gets a contagious illness, we can separate them from the group till they're well again. So that is also included in this building that is under construction. So why for this building? We have outgrown our temporary tent. If you remember our tent earlier in the presentation, it's 18 by 36, I believe, and we just about max it out. We have almost 40 for birthday parties and events, church, and those kinds of things. So we're ready to expand from our tent. Our tent is also vulnerable in inclement weather. So we have thunderstorms, we have typhoons, we have all these things, and it's not a good structure to be in when we have rough weather. We also, of course, need to meet the requirements of the DSWD. The DSWD is the Department of Social Welfare and Development in the Philippines. They oversee our facility. They have a lot of regulations, as government likes to do, regulations, red tape, all these kinds of things. So we must meet their requirements, and also to further enhance our ability to reach more people with the good news. So we want to be able to bring in the community to our worship services, bring them in for Vacation Bible School, bring them in for a guest speaker, all these kinds of things, and this will allow us more space for that. So we also have some infrastructure projects. We were beginning to build our drainage canals, and actually 3 delivery trucks, because our soil is very soft when it rains, got stuck and collapsed our drainage canals. So we need to get back to that and rebuild those canals. And also, after all this time, just last year, we finished completing our enclosure wall. It is a 9-foot wall that fully encloses the property, and you may think, that's crazy, sir. Why are you building a wall around 5 acres of property? And it is necessary for us. We have a lot of stray animals. We even have stray people that would wander onto our property, and we do need to protect the children. Also, in the aerial photo, I don't know if you noticed, but we're surrounded by sugarcane fields. They actually burn those fields before they harvest it to run out the snakes and the rats and just make it easier for them to harvest the sugarcane. And so the wall acts as a firewall to protect our property and buildings. You'll see there on the photo on the right, that is our property after Typhoon Odette in December of 2021. The entire property was underwater. And we often get flooding, not necessarily from a typhoon. If it rains for 3 or 4 days, we may have some flooding on the property. So we're in the process of digging a retention pond that will help us be able to control flooding issues. We also need more staff housing. So the houses are very limited on the number of staff that can stay overnight. There is enough room for a house mother and an assistant, but we have additional staff. We need additional staff housing on the property. We have space allocated for that. We just need to build the structures so that other staff have a place to stay overnight on the property. So how can you help us? So we need more sponsors. So as we add more children, we need more sponsors. We ask for $35 a month to sponsor a child. If you are unable to do the 35, you can sponsor a child for any amount because every bit helps. But we ask for 35 if you're able, but if you're not, you can still sponsor a child at any amount. That's only $420 a year to bring a child out of poverty and give them all the essentials they need to be able to complete their schooling and teach them the Word of God. So it's really a small price to pay to help a child. So as we complete our CEA Learning Center, we will need computers for our computer lab. We estimate we're going to do 10 desktop computers, so we need funding for that as well. So 3 years ago when we were here and doing fundraising, a donor donated enough money for us to buy the Toyota van you see there behind the children, and it's been very good for us for 3 years, but now instead of 3 children, we have 30, and 30 kids will not fit in the van anymore. So we are hoping to secure funds so that we can get a small minibus that will seat at least 30 children. The cost of that is about $60,000 new, so we may be able to find a used one if we're unable to raise those funds. So how else can you help? Maybe you can't help financially, but you can always help with your prayers. So you can pray for our staff, you can pray for our children, you can pray for the future of the organization, you can pray that we will find a minister. We desperately want to find a minister for our facility. You can spread the word to others. Maybe you can't help, but you know somebody who can, or somebody who would like to sponsor a child. Spread the word about the work that we're doing. We, as we said, need funding to complete the CEA Learning Center. We also need monthly donations to just help with our operational costs. So the 35 for the children will provide them with all the essentials that they need for clothes, food, medical attention, dental, schooling, everything like that, but we also have additional costs beyond that we need to cover. So perhaps some of you would like to visit the Philippines. I know one gentleman was already there, but if you'd like to visit, we'd love to have you come visit the Philippines, spend time with us, interact with the children, teach Bible studies, or anything you'd like to do. We'd love to have you visit if you're inclined to do that. So we also accept one-time donations of any amount. Any amount will help us in the work that we're doing. We like to get monthly and quarterly support because then we know how much money's coming in and we can budget more easily that way. Perhaps you don't want to think about it, but we're all going to pass from this life eventually. Maybe you would like to leave a legacy behind once you pass and leave a legacy donation for us. We also accept stocks. We have a donor in Tennessee that has donated a considerable amount of stocks for us, and we have held on to some of that, and it continues to make money for us. So those are things that we really are looking for and will accept. So if you notice when you came in, there is a display set up in the foyer. We also have some printed material there. We'd like for all of you to check that out and sign up if you'd like. So you can keep up with our work through our website, www.Casa Esperanza of Angels, all one big word, and you do not have to remember all that, because if you pick up a brochure out there, it's all on the back. So don't worry about trying to remember all these things I'm telling you. And also, if you want to keep up with this more, what's really current, you'll check our Facebook page, Casa Esperanza of Angels Philippine Mission, because we post a lot of stuff on Facebook almost every few days that you can really keep up with what's going on there that will not show up on the website. So you can also always contact me personally, rbrown406@hotmail.com. So we thank you very much for our chance to speak with you today and share you what we've been doing for the last 3 years. The work is progressing. So 3 years ago, we only had 3 kids. Now we have 30. We have many baptized children. They're beginning to learn how to lead the church. So the work that we're doing is very important. We want to find a minister that will begin reaching out to the community so that our work spreads even more. So I will, if it's allowable, I'll take questions. We have a few minutes. If anyone has a question about how we acquire the children, or about us personally, or about the organization, we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, so every employee gets 1 day a week off, but they have chosen, because they say most of them traveled to go home, so they have chosen to take 2 days back to back every 2 weeks, and then someone else fills in them for them during that time, that shift. Most of them spend the night. They stay 24/7 on the property except for their days off, so the children are supervised all day and all night. Yes, sir? So we do plan to send them all the way through college. If they do well, they of course must abide by our house rules, as probably in your house too. They must abide by the rules, and they must apply themselves. So we're not looking for kids that are just going to hang out indefinitely with us feed them, and then them do nothing. So we encourage them to finish their schooling, and if they apply themselves, we'll send them all the way through college if they're able to do that. Now, we do have some children that I do not believe are capable of completing college, but at least if we can get them through high school so they're literate, they can write their name, they can read, these kinds of things are very important in life. Other questions? Yes, sir. We have nighttime security from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We have a guard, armed guard on the property. It's not required by the government that we have a guard, but we do to help us feel a little safer at night. We have not had any problems since the very beginning of the construction, when we had some guys come in at night to steal wire to get the copper wires. But we have not had any problems since we actually have moved onto the property and now established ourselves there. There are radical Islamic groups in the Philippines, but they mostly stay where the government can't get to them, and they're always on the move. They're mostly in the rural mountainous regions. They don't come down to our area very often, so we have not had any real problems. If you're involved in drugs, in the drug world, yes, it's dangerous, very dangerous. But if you're not involved with those people, everything's fine. Yes, sir. So all the Philippines is predominantly Catholic. So 80+% would identify as Catholic, whether they're really practicing or not. But the Church of Christ is growing. So there are preaching schools in Luzon, Cebu, Leyte. There are preaching schools, Church of Christ preaching schools in the Philippines, and the work is expanding. Churches are popping up. So it is very, very difficult to find Christian employees, almost impossible. So our 2 house mothers are Church of Christ. Some of our other employees are not. But we talk to them before we allow them to work for us. They must be open to listening to the Bible. They are not allowed to preach any other doctrines or teachings. So they understand that. And most all of them seem to be interested. So they come to worship service, they come to the Bible studies, so at least we're planting that seed. Any other questions? No, so the national language is Tagalog, but in our island it is Cebuano or Visayan. So the other half of the island is actually Ilonggo, another language that my wife even cannot understand. So they would revert back to the national language of Tagalog to be able to communicate. But English is taught in all the schools in the Philippines, so And in my experience, the older generations in the Philippines actually speak pretty good English, better than the younger people. But a lot of Filipinos know English. They're just afraid to speak because they are afraid of making a mistake. So they'll see a foreigner like, oh, I don't want to talk to him because I might say something wrong or not say it the right way. So most everybody knows some English. And we're teaching our kids English too. They have an English class every Saturday morning, and they are taught English in schools. Any other questions this morning? So we find children through a lot of different referrals. Some of them come through the government, some come from the schools, some come through them from just the community citizens. Our social workers will go out and assess the situation, find out what is their situation. They will do a case study report. They submit that to me, and then I review it to whether we would accept the child or not into the facility. So we're actually quite picky about the children that we take because we want to be successful. We want them to be successful. If we just want to feed and clothe them, we don't need to build a facility. We can just give them money. But our intention is to bring them to the facility so that we can teach them about God. Even though we're giving them clothes and we're sending them to school and food and all these things, yes, those are the necessity of life. The most important thing is to teach them about God. If they end up being a rice farmer or a pedicab driver or whatever it is, as long as they know God, we have been successful. That's our goal. So I thank you this morning. Please check out the display in the foyer on your way out today and pick up a brochure if you like. And we're happy to be here with you today. Thank you very much for this time.